Over the course of this year, I've been hearing through the grapevine little bits and pieces here and there. You know, those TikTok car confessionals? People just admitting that, what if I just don't have any hobbies?
With me is that I don't have any hobbies.
Somebody asks me, what is your hobby? I have to make something up.
Person is interesting if they have hobbies, but it's like, what if I, outside of my 40+ hour work week, outside of my family, outside of binging Netflix, outside of just coming home and collapsing and falling asleep, outside of eating, what if I just don't have a hobby and therefore not worthy of, you know, making friends, finding dates? Like, what if I'm just boring and I have no hobbies? Is the modern world slipping into a hobby deficit, into adults no longer having hobbies? Now, speaking from my personal experience, I don't know how true that is. I'm an adult. I live in this modern world and I have plenty of hobbies. I think I have so many hobbies. There's just not enough time in the day to do all these hobbies. And if I don't have any hobbies, I'll just come up with some strange thing to do. I'm always doing something strange. It's like I had this coworker who's always snooping behind me. She likes to just kind of like trounce behind me. Slowly mosey behind me, take a look at what I'm doing on my computer. You're always doing something weird. I'm the woman of many hobbies. I watercolor, I read, I write. I like to sculpt with clay. I like magnets. There was candle making. I like to go around knocking on wood. I like to sing. I have a lot of hobbies, okay? But whether they're considered hobbies to other people is the question. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Do people not have any hobbies? If there's a hobby deficit epidemic, my thesis is that people have hobbies. Even if you think you don't have any hobbies, you probably have hobbies. The issue is whether we think our hobbies are good enough to be considered hobbies, or whether some people think your hobbies are good enough to be considered hobbies is left up to debate. So that's what we're going to talk about today. My name is Teresa, and this is why people no longer have hobbies, hobby shaming, and hobby gatekeeping. So this conversation came about earlier this year or so, where there was a viral for the wrong reason hot take on TikTok. And I feel like TikTok, it always happens on TikTok, you know, that's where all the hot takes happen nowadays, now that I am well versed in the art of rage baiting. Not that I've ever rage baited you. If I am bitchy, it's because I am authentically bitchy, okay? So if you come in, you dislike me for whatever reason, I would like to think that your hatred is authentic, you know? That's what I want to foster, authentic hate. In the art of rage baiting on TikTok, obviously the algorithm doesn't care if somebody likes your video or somebody doesn't like your video. All it cares about is if somebody interacts with your video, okay? So I feel like this TikToker, she knew what she was getting into. She knew what she was getting into with this hot take. The gist is she saw some dudes in their like late 20s, early 30s learning how to skateboard, adults on skateboards, okay?
Believe it, but I met this guy the other day and he said he took a skateboarding class as an adult. And I was like, okay, that should be illegal. I'm sorry, a bunch of men in their late 20s and early 30s, people, not men, anyone, that age range, learning how to skate by a teacher.
And she was not having it. She is of the opinion that if you didn't learn how to skateboard when you were 13, then you should just give it up. Don't even try it as an adult. It's embarrassing for you. It's embarrassing for those who watch you. It's embarrassing for passersby to see a 29-year-old on a skateboard trying to do an ollie. The bottom line is adults should just not have hobbies. You should just give it up. Give up the skateboard. Give up your toys. I don't know what she thinks adults are supposed to be doing. Just go home and do your taxes. That seems very adult. Go home and do your taxes. And obviously, by the nature of this hot take, she got a lot of hate for it on the internet. Sometimes I like to brush up on my debating skills by just defending certain characters on the internet that people don't like the sad beige mom, the millennial.
I'll fight for you. I will fight for you. Teresa got me a new pair of pants.
Who else have I defended? I am not a Disney adult myself. I took a look at the annual pass and I'm like, whew, it's too rich for me. I'm going to take a stand right here and say that I am pro Disney adult. And if you're not pro Disney adult, Mickey can't say this, but I can. You son of a bitch. I'm not coming in to defend her because there's no defense for this. This lady, she's truly lost. So that TikToker and others are in one camp, which I like to label with shame, the hobby shamers. Those who shame other people for having hobbies. Those who shame other people for daring to enjoy a hobby or an activity. They're always slapping like an age limit on things. You can't skateboard unless you're a teenager. You can't play with dolls unless you're a little girl. You can't go to Disneyland unless you're a child. But I don't know. I don't see any kids going to Disneyland alone. Their weapon of choice is the age limit. I don't know what they expect adults to do now that they've aged out of these hobbies. Like, what do you think adults do? One's mother, for instance, she no longer has any interest anymore. Like, her whole purpose is to raise her child. She has no more personality. They want people to be ghosts of their former selves and just stay home, do adult things, whatever the hell that is. Hobby shamers. Shame on you. I don't like you. You son of a bitch. Okay, guys, we are going to talk some trash. I'm in a mood now. I've got myself all worked up in this Venn diagram of awful people, hobby shamers. And then there's the hobby gatekeepers. They're the people that like to tell you that what you enjoy doing is not a hobby. Technically, that's not a hobby. You know what I'm talking about? The podcast bro. This is the reason why I prefer to hold my microphone versus have an actual podcast microphone, because I want to steer as far away from an actual podcast setup as possible. I don't want that fucking microphone just hanging right here. It reminds me of the podcast bros with their Mr. Beast one word at a time subtitles. Guys who think that girls don't have hobbies.
How many girls do you know actually have hobbies?
All girls are boring now. They don't have any hobbies.
Why don't you girls have any hobbies?
Of course, girls have hobbies. Sometimes girls have girl hobbies. Sometimes women like to knit, cross-stitching, makeup. But according to some dudes, some unenlightened guys, hopefully none of you are like that. If you are like that, then you could step. I don't cast my pearls before swine. Girls have hobbies. Sewing is a hobby. Cross-stitching is a hobby. Makeup is a hobby. If you want to collect bags, if you want to collect shoes and it brings you joy, then that's a freaking hobby. And the only reason why podcast bros with their stupid subtitles say that it's not a hobby is because they're not interested in it. It's girl stuff. It's chick stuff. It's not a hobby. Basically, they're just saying that they're just not interested in what this girl is interested in. She should be interested in what he's interested in, which is probably crypto or like working out until your head is too small for your muscular body, running up your debt so high so you could buy a car that you can't afford or something. There's like that type of personality. I don't like that either. That's in the hobby gatekeeper. And I swear, I'm not going to make this all about some war of the sexes here, but I'm just really sick of hearing chick stuff. All your hobbies are chick stuff, like collecting plushies, chick stuff. Useless consumerism. Why is it that when a woman collects something, it's useless consumerism, but when a guy buys like a $400 Death Star, then it's considered a collectible? Chick stuff is just written off as not important, lesser than. I was reading this article about girls really getting into golf. This one influencer, she's starting this golf club amongst her friends, and then she's calling it hot girl golf. You know, like hot girl summer, hot girl golf, hot girl this, hot girl that, hot girl books. And when you put hot girl in front of everything, inevitably there will be a lot of eye rolls amongst the dudes, obviously. Chick stuff, but also amongst women.
Hobbies? What do girls do? Am I supposed to knit?
As like, you're not taking it seriously. Somebody is really into golf and she has the influence to get a bunch of her friends, to corral a bunch of her friends into golf as well. So off they go with their cute little golf outfits to the golf course, to the country club. In this article, they quoted a longtime member of this country club. He's in his 50s or so, Gen X, okay? He's really bothered. He's like extremely bothered that these girls have somehow infested his country club. They're clogging up the course. They're not taking golf seriously, but they play golf just fine. They're really into golf. It's a new hobby for them. It's a new activity for them, but he's just like, we need to gatekeep golf from girls. Some guys are just never satisfied. They don't like it when you do chick stuff. They don't like it when you sew or cross stitch, drag them to Sephora, subject them to the torture of like going to Sephora. But when you are into their activities, they don't want you around. They don't want you infiltrating their club. It's like girls who are into Star Wars, girls who are into Comic-Con, girls clogging up the gym. They're not into it. I could just see that guy in the country club getting his panties in a bunch. I could just see him getting so angry as he's trying to go through his golf course. He's trying to get a hole in one, and then there's just a group of hot girls being all hot and getting in his way. On the other hand, I can see very old members of the country club, like 93-year-old men getting this is not country club approved lingo, but I could see them getting all turned. They probably hadn't seen so much action since World War II. In any event, the guy who's against girls joining in his country club, he is probably the type of character who also calls girl activities chick stuff. Sewing, cross stitching, button collecting. And is it anybody out there collect any buttons? I don't want to get into it. The plushie collection, show tunes, Bridgerton conventions. He'll probably say that's chick stuff. That's not a hobby. When the hot girls start to infiltrate his golf game, he doesn't like that either. Girls are damned if they do, damned if they don't. What if a girl wanted to join like the stonemasons billiard club? What if they're billiard enthusiasts and they want to join this club? I'm pretty sure some dudes are going to have something to say about it. They don't want to hang out with girls. This playhouse is for the boys. Girls keep out. Like, I personally feel like if I was in some kind of sewing circle, I don't really know how to sew. There was a moment where I tried to learn, but if I was in a sewing circle and some dude wants to join the sewing circle, I would be all up for it. If I was like in a girls book club and all we do is read Jane Austen, and then some guy wants to come in to our book club and read Pride and Prejudice with us, that guy would have like a Jane Austen bitch on each arm. Like, if you're a guy, you're single, and you want to date women, then you find where women congregate and then you join it. You join the Jane Austen book club. I don't know if people are reading Jane Austen anymore in these book clubs. Maybe they're reading, like, I don't know, A Court of Thorns and Roses or something. So get a copy of Thorn of Courts and Roses, and then you read it, and then you talk about it, and then the girls will love you. And then you might enjoy it. You can be like, I don't have to change myself. I don't want to change myself because of some chick. Women like it when you approach things with open mind. You might enjoy what you read. A lot of guys are like, these chick books sucks. These chick fantasies suck. Okay, give me a title that you have personally read that made you arrive at that decision. And chances are, you got nothing to say. You have nothing to say because you haven't read any of it. Chances are, the guys who's like, these women books suck, what title have they read? They have not read any titles. They just arrived at this decision by force of their own ignorance. And that's the kind of ignorance that smart girls don't like. If you don't want a smart girl, go find a dumb girl. You be dumb together. You have dumb children. If you're single and you want to change that, then join a Jane Austen book club. There's a portion of hobby gatekeeping. It's kind of like a disdain for chick hobbies and keep out of the boys club. That one flavor of the hobby gatekeeping pie. And then there are people who say that collecting as we know nowadays, for those who are extremely online, collecting Labubus, bag charms, collecting Stanley cups. There's like the segment of people who say that this is not a hobby. It's just rampant consumerism, overconsumption. They're a social media trend promoting rampant consumerism, and these items, once they fall out of popularity, will just end up in the landfill. And I definitely agree in many respects to that argument. And in another video, if I was talking about overconsumption, that will be my straw man argument advocating against overconsumption fueled by social media trends. Okay, but today we are talking about hobbies and whether or not collecting a bunch of Stanley cups or a bunch of overpriced bag charms or collecting a trend item is considered a hobby. Or is it considered just rampant consumerism, overconsumption? Stanley Cups had their day in the sun last year. When I go to Marshall's Home Goods, I see some Stanley Cups or some Stanley Cup looking items that nobody really wants. I definitely see that point. But is it wrong for somebody to collect Stanley Cups? If you do not think that Stanley Cups are worthy of a collection, like what is worthy of a collection? Baseball card collections, coin collections, stamp collections. Why is that considered much more valuable of a collection than just Stanley Cups? Okay, so a person with a rainbow wall of Stanley Cups, it is consumption, okay? I do believe that it is consumption. But let's just say that there is just one person who's just really drawn to Stanley Cups, and for them, they'll continue collecting Stanley Cups outside of the trend window. The moment that they saw this cup in this shape, it triggered something in them. They're like, I gotta own like 1,000 of them. I need them now. Who's to say what the intention of this person is? We can infer that they're doing it for social media. It's a shock and awe and kind of flex value to it when you see somebody with a rainbow wall of Stanley Cups. It's also got a rage bait factor because a lot of people just really hate on people collecting Stanley Cups. We can assume that they're doing it for social media, but what if they're not? There's a reasonable doubt here. If somehow I got some gig in which influencers hire me to defend them in the courts of public opinion because everybody hates them, I would do it.
I'll fight for you. I will fight for you. Teresa got me a new pair of pants.
I love a good villain. I love a lost cause. I love a lost cause. I've never found a lost cause that I can't defend. There is like a tiny grain of reasonable doubt that this person maybe just collects Stanley Cups because she likes Stanley Cups. That's it. Like she saw the Stanley Cup one day, it awakened something in her and she has to collect like 100 of them. There's somebody out there right now that has a Stanley Cup collection and they're not even on social media. I would feel like a real jerk for saying this lady, and I don't know why it's a lady. It doesn't have to be a lady. She collects Stanley Cups for the views. She collects Stanley Cups because she's brainwashed by trends when she probably just genuinely likes Stanley Cups. There's some dude with like an entire display cabinet of waifu figurines, you know, the anime characters with the big, you know, assets. Somewhere out there's an old man with a stamp collection and nobody's giving him any grief. There's a comic book guy, nobody's giving him any grief about that. Like that's the interesting thing about people is that we all have our unique collections. Who are we to say that this lady's Stanley Cup collection is not worthy of a collection? There's like this segment of people that says like collecting is just consumerism, so collecting is not a hobby. And like, what the hell? Collecting has always been a hobby. Ever since the dawn of time, people have been collecting rocks, stamps, vases, paintings, shoes, moose heads, taxidermied animals. People have been collecting things forever. And perhaps each one of those items at some point in time been a wild trend. In the Victorian times, this is a little morbid. They used to collect hair, like human hair, and then weave it into a weave, like a memento mori. If you're a hunter, you bagged yourself a stag and then all of a sudden its head is mounted on your wall. Between somebody shaming your hobbies, saying you're too old to skateboard, and if you're an adult doing this activity, then it's cringe, and then people gatekeeping hobbies. People have been collecting as a hobby, so much so that collecting and hobby are like synonymous with each other. They're said in the same sentence, and it's so natural to assume that somebody collecting something is a hobby, but now there's a debate of whether or not collecting something is a hobby. There's a lot of conversation about what a hobby is. It's no wonder that people don't have any hobbies because they're afraid of being made fun of for their hobbies. And it's like, you can say, who cares what they think? You know, who cares what some chick on TikTok thinks? Let's say your hobby is skateboarding, for instance, or you're the 35-year-old man learning how to skateboard and you're out there falling on your butt. Let's just say somebody films you. A lot of people have been telling me in my comment section, whenever I talk about influencers and stuff, a lot of people are afraid of being filmed nowadays. This is the world we live in. Everybody's got a camera in their pocket. What if they film you? What if they film you and then they post it on TikTok? You could become viral in the butt of everybody's joke. And that's why people are afraid to do their hobbies. People are afraid to be authentic. People are afraid to mess up in public, there's always the fear of somebody filming you. Nowadays, with social media and everything, it seems like a lot of people film their hobbies, and because they film their hobbies, they have to be the best at their hobby. If you are an art girl, the process of you drawing is content for social media. There's the pressure of being the best at it. But what if you just want to, what if you're a bad artist, but you just like to draw? You just want to draw stick figures or whatever, or you're learning how to watercolor, but you're not the best at it. Like, as soon as you film yourself doing it, you subject yourself to criticism that you suck, you're not good enough. Hustle culture makes us feel guilty of doing a hobby that can't monetize. So in order to monetize your hobby, you have to, number one, be good at enough that people want to pay money to see you do your hobby. Like, for instance, I write a book, you have to be good enough for somebody to want to buy your book and read it. Or if you are an art girl, you have to be good enough that somebody likes your painting enough to want to buy a print of it. A lot of the times we feel guilty to just kind of suck at our hobbies. The definition of a hobby is like doing something you enjoy, but you don't have to be good at it. There's like people who want to paint, may want to write, but what if they're not really good at it? And then they see people who are like masters of their domain, and they see people online who are exceptionally good at it, and it kind of makes them not even want to try. And I feel like that defeats the purpose, because a hobby is something that you just feel joy and pleasure and it relaxes you, but you're not supposed to be the best at it. Writing used to be my hobby, and then I was able to monetize it. For a few years, it kind of felt like a job until I said stop. Sometimes I have a crazy idea for a book, and then I go like, is this gonna sell? Chances are it probably won't sell because it's just so wild and crazy. You have to make commercial sacrifices for your art in order to sustain the career. If I won the lottery and I was like a multi-millionaire, I would still continue to write, but I would write the most crazy things. I would write the most crazy off-market things. But because I want to make money off my writing, I have to make some sacrifices. Like, I can still do my thing, but I have to keep an eye out for what is popular, what people will actually want to read, what I think people will actually want to read. It's like the same with YouTube. There are video ideas that I want to make, but I know that it's not going to do well at all. So therefore I don't. I want to vlog too, but I don't think anybody's going to watch my boring life. And let's just say, what if your hobby, this is the most weird thing, but what if your hobby is just to stare at a wall and watch paint dry? And there's a lot of people that are like, that's not a hobby. But what if you enjoy just staring at a wall, just raw dogging the wall and watching paint dry? People will say that's not a hobby. That's insane. But if you enjoy just staring at a wall for like 3 hours, then I support you. I support you in your insanity. Imagine if somebody had a TikTok account where all they do is just stare at a wall. And I think that will actually become a trend. And then you start a club of like wall starers. Some people will have something to say. They're like, oh, these kids are crazy. What is our culture deteriorating into that these kids are just staring at walls? There's going to be somebody who's like, this person doesn't stare as well as this person. So now there's going to be a whole staring competition. Everybody just loses the plot. They lose the whole goal. The point is that somebody out there enjoys staring at a wall. I feel like decluttering is kind of a hobby, and a lot of people will be like, decluttering is not a hobby, collecting is a hobby. So collecting is a hobby. I've defended people who collect, and I feel like you could collect anything and it's a hobby. In the same vein, decluttering is a hobby because a lot of people enjoy getting rid of collections. If you get a thrill getting rid of things, then that is a hobby. I like to rearrange furniture. I don't like how some apartments force you to put your furniture in a certain place. You know, like you're very locked in for where you could put your couch and where you could put your TV and where you could put your dining table. What if I wanted to put the bed in the dining room and then dine in the bedroom? Is that crazy? What if you want to turn your dining room into some kind of plant haven, you know, a plant nook or a book nook, and you don't want a dining table at all? I like to flaunt furniture convention. That's what I'm all about. You know, I don't film this at all because I'm probably going to receive a lot of hate for it. Like somebody would be like, why do you sleep in the dining room. That's not for sleeping, that's for dining. What if I want to get rid of my dining table and put like a hammock in the dining room? That's my prerogative. I'm a very accepting person. I have a very open mind, but the only thing I don't accept is people shaming other people for their hobbies, gatekeeping what is considered a hobby. People who say hobbies are cringe, are they themselves very cringe? And that's just my opinion. And if you want to collect Stanley Cups, or if you want to stare at a wall, go forth and do your hobby. Don't let anybody tell you you can't skateboard at 35. Don't let anybody tell you that you suck at watercoloring. You may suck, but just continue to suck at it if you enjoy it. You know, there's like an art to sucking. Look at my channel. That's all I have for you today. I think that's all. Inquiring minds want to know what your hobby is. So comment what is your hobby down below. What do you like to collect? What do you like to do or not do, but you enjoy doing? Just what do you enjoy doing? And if you made it this far, drop the skateboard in the comments down below. What if, oh my God, what if this is my dream? Somebody in the comments meets somebody else in the comments, and they have mutual interest, and you guys start talking, and then it's like a love match or a friend match. I'm just hoping, I got my fingers crossed, that somebody will meet somebody and they'll live happily ever after, that you can invite me to your wedding. And then you might invite me to sing. I can sing a variety of songs from Les Mis. Like, I don't really have that many skills, but I could talk, okay? You know, you guys are here because you know I could talk. I'm gonna give a toast at your wedding.